Chosen one, you may not even realize it fully, but something within you has shifted. You are no longer merely present, you are noticed, not for noise, not for charm, but for something deeper. Women are beginning to respond to you not simply with admiration or attention, but with a subtle and unspoken deference. Your words carry weight, your silences speak volumes. Your presence now occupies a position of authority. And this is not a role you have demanded, it is one that your energy has earned. This authority did not arrive overnight. It grew slowly, silently in the spaces between your choices. It came through restraint, through consistency, through your devotion to becoming a man of weight, not just mass. The world feels the difference between those who want power and those who have become it. You have become it. And what's even more unique, chosen one, is the way your high sexual energy has evolved. Once an untamed current, hot, urgent, impulsive, it is now disciplined heat. It no longer leaks through your expressions, it commands through stillness. That alone has redefined how others, especially women, experience you. They don't just notice you, they feel you. Not in a shallow sense, but in a way that stirs their nervous system. They sense they are in the company of someone who does not seek permission to lead, but who leads simply by being aligned. They find themselves leaning in, watching how you move, how you hold your gaze, how you remain unbothered and completely embodied. You don't chase their approval anymore. And ironically, that's why their approval seeks you. Your energy has crossed a threshold from being attractive to becoming directive. It shapes the room you walk into. Conversations bend toward your frequency. Eyes look to you for guidance. Choices begin to revolve around your position. This is the early manifestation of true masculine authority, and it cannot be faked, forced, or fabricated. It is forged in solitude, in silence, in sweat, in the quiet refusal to abandon yourself just to be accepted. This kind of authority is not loud. It doesn't clamor for control. It simply is. And those around you, whether consciously or not, begin to mirror it, especially women. Because feminine energy, when it encounters a man who has become authority, not out of ego but out of embodiment, instinctively responds. She may smile more softly, speak more slowly, open more fully, not because she is beneath you, but because she trusts you. Because your energy tells her, you are safe here. I am not here to impress. I am here to anchor. Chosen one, do not take this lightly. You are no longer the one pushing doors open. They are being held open for you. You are no longer needing to explain your worth. It is understood. And the moment you recognize this new current, your responsibility expands. You must begin to walk differently. Think differently. You can no longer react like the man who needed validation. You must now respond like the man who knows he carries impact with every word, every glance, every breath. You are not only being seen, you are being sought after. Because in a world of instability, your authority feels like sanctuary. Chosen one, now that your authority is emerging, not given but revealed, you must learn the most essential companion to power, grace. Because power, unrefined, can intoxicate. It can turn confidence into arrogance. It can make a man forget the very ground that built him. But grace is what makes power safe. And if you are to walk in this new role of influence, especially around women, then grace must be your armor. This grace is not weakness. It is not softness in the way the world misinterprets it. It is depth. It is the decision to wield power without ever using it to diminish others. It is the strength to remain calm when admiration surges. It is the wisdom to say less when more would win applause. It is the inner security to stay still when the moment wants you to perform. Grace is what makes your presence gentle without ever being weak, and dominant without ever being harsh. Women feel this grace before you speak. They sense it in your eyes, that you are capable of force, but you choose not to use it carelessly, that you can command attention, but you don't demand it, that you can lead, but you don't need to dominate. And this paradox, the ability to hold power but not flaunt it, is what makes you irresistible. Not in the romantic sense alone, but in the spiritual sense. Your presence becomes a place where the feminine can rest, breathe, and bloom. Your high sexual energy, now anchored and sacred, doesn't speak through your body alone. It speaks through your restraint. You are no longer trying to arouse, you are evoking something higher. You are awakening peace, safety, and sacred curiosity. Your words carry the rhythm of self-awareness. Your silence carries the weight of intention. And this is what separates you from the rest. You are not just powerful, you are aware of the effect your power has. You must now protect this awareness. The more women respond to you, the more you must remember that each reaction is an offering, not a conquest. Each compliment, each glance, each moment of approach is an invitation to meet her energy with respect, with discernment, with empathy. Not to take advantage of her openness, but to honor it. That's grace. Not shrinking back, but standing fully in your power and choosing to make it nourishing. Let this be the posture you walk in. Grace before impulse, presence before performance, purpose before pleasure. When you combine power with grace, you do more than attract, you transform. You become the kind of man who doesn't just lead by title, but by how others feel in your presence. And women will not forget that feeling. They may not understand it, they may not know how to describe it, but they will walk away knowing one thing for certain. I was in the presence of a man who could have taken everything, but chose instead to make me feel like everything was already mine. That is the true mark of a man in authority. That is the grace of power. Chosen one, now that you've begun to carry the quiet weight of authority, particularly in how women engage you, you must now awaken to the next layer of your evolution, leadership. This is no longer about charisma. It's no longer about appearance. It's no longer about whether you can attract, impress, or maintain interest. This is about how you lead. And true leadership begins not with control over others, but with mastery over self. Your high sexual energy has turned into more than a presence. It has become an unspoken language. Women can feel it. It surrounds you like breath surrounds fire. It is warm, alive, and magnetic. But what separates you from the average man is this. You do not use that energy to manipulate. You use it to guide. You don't seek to impress. You seek to inspire alignment. And that, chosen one, is the root of integrity-based leadership. Leadership is not about how many follow your voice. It's about how many grow stronger in your presence. A woman does not need you to lead her life, but she needs to trust that you are leading your own. And not just publicly, but especially in private. She will feel it in how your eyes don't wander when she's vulnerable. She will sense it in how your words don't fluctuate with emotion, but remain steady in truth. She will know it in how your touch respects before it reaches. All of this is evidence of leadership with integrity. You must understand that leadership is not perfection. It's responsibility. It's knowing that your energy has become influential. And with that comes the choice to either elevate or exploit. The women who now approach you don't just come to you for presence. They come with expectation. And it's not the kind of expectation you owe them, but the kind that reflects what your frequency already promised: stability, safety, clarity, grounded masculinity. If your words are charming, but your foundation is inconsistent, she'll feel it immediately. If your touch is intentional, but your thoughts are scattered, she'll retreat. If your presence is powerful, but your decisions lack vision, she'll admire you, but never trust you. This is where integrity becomes the difference between a spark and a structure. Because while sparks impress in the moment, only structure builds something that lasts. Chosen one, you are now the type of man whose leadership is judged not by what you say, but by what happens to others when they walk away from you. Do they feel clearer? Do they feel more whole? Do they feel seen but not consumed? If so, then you are leading with integrity, and that is rare, that is sacred, that is remembered. Let your leadership be the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be followed. Let it be the kind that calls others into alignment by merely existing in it yourself. When women approach you, let them find a man who governs himself so deeply that he doesn't need to prove anything, because everything about him already moves with purpose. You are not just a man being watched, you are now a man being trusted. And trust is the currency of leadership that cannot be bought or faked. It is only earned through the alignment of your inner world with your outer actions. Lead, chosen one, not just with fire in your chest, but with honor in your step. Chosen one, influence is no longer something you chase. It is something that follows you. It clings to your presence. It speaks through your posture. It shapes the energy in the room before you even say a word. Your high sexual energy, once misunderstood as something merely seductive, has matured into a field of gravitational influence. Women don't just respond to it, they adjust themselves around it. But now you must ask yourself, what will you do with this influence? This is the part of the journey that separates the men who burn fast from the men who build legacies. Because influence, like fire, can be both light and destruction. And the difference between the two lies in your awareness. You can no longer afford to interact from impulse. You can no longer afford to be careless with moments that are now being offered to you with open hearts and unguarded trust. You must step fully into the responsibility that comes with the level of energy you now radiate. This responsibility is not about pretending to be a saint, it's about being awake. Awake to how your words echo long after they're spoken. Awake to how your silence can become a sanctuary or a void. Awake to how your approval can lift a spirit or create dependence. You are now the man whose reactions matter, and you must treat every interaction like it is not just personal, but sacred. Women now walk towards you because they sense that you are different. Not just confident, but controlled. Not just attractive, but anchored. But they are also testing something, quietly, unconsciously. They are asking, can he handle my presence without objectifying it? Can he hold my truth without recoiling? Can he stand in his desire without needing to dominate? And your answer cannot come through performance. It must come through being. Being still. Being clear. Being deeply rooted in the knowledge that your influence is not about you. It is about what happens to those who meet you. This is where your high sexual energy must become consecrated. Not suppressed, not diluted, but disciplined for divine use. That energy must serve something bigger than the ego. It must serve transformation, clarity, respect, healing. Your influence, when filtered through intention and empathy, becomes more than magnetic, it becomes medicinal. Women will feel more themselves around you, not because you convinced them, but because your presence allowed them to unfold. That is the deepest kind of influence. Not the power to sway, but the power to reveal what was already sacred in others. Carry this power carefully, chosen one. Carry it with reverence. You are now the man others feel before they see. You are the voice they recall in silence. You are the energy they cannot explain, but crave when the world feels cold. And when you understand this, you will no longer fear your influence. You will steward it, because you were never meant to impress the world. You were meant to shift it. One conversation, one gaze, one steady breath at a time. Chosen one, now that your presence has matured into authority, felt, acknowledged, and respected, you are entering the most delicate and spiritually demanding part of your journey, restraint. It is easy to lead with charm. It is easy to perform power. It is even easy to draw attention, especially when your high sexual energy now precedes you like the scent of fire in still air. But the mark of a man who is truly in command of himself is not how much he takes. It is how often he chooses not to. And in a world that is desperate for attention, your restraint becomes revolutionary. Women feel your energy before you speak. They sense the quiet intensity that wraps itself around your voice, your posture, your timing. They sense the fire beneath your eyes, the presence behind your silence. You are now the kind of man whose every move feels intentional, whose every pause feels heavy with purpose. But this is where the temptation grows subtle, because with attention comes opportunity, and with opportunity comes testing. You will be tested in the quiet spaces, in conversations that invite familiarity too quickly, in compliments laced with hidden offers, in eyes that linger too long, hoping you'll reach back without thinking. But you are not here to be impulsive. You are not here to gratify appetite. You are here to guard your frequency like a temple. You are here to demonstrate to the world what happens when a man no longer gives away his energy to every spark of desire. Restraint does not mean repression. You do not need to suppress your masculinity to be spiritual, but you must direct it. A man who is truly powerful doesn't need to touch everything he can reach. He only gives his presence to what has earned the right to receive it fully. That is the art of restraint, not just in what you withhold, but in what you protect. When a woman approaches you, even with desire in her eyes, she is silently asking, "Can I trust you not to take advantage of this moment?" And the man who answers with poise, with dignity, with grounded clarity, becomes unforgettable. Your high sexual energy, when restrained, becomes more than attraction. It becomes a magnet for reverence. Because now, you're not just attractive, you're safe, and not safe in the weak passive sense. Safe in the powerful, rooted masculine sense. The kind of safety that allows others to be open without fear. That allows the feminine to surrender, not because she must, but because she knows she won't be harmed in the process. This restraint shows up in your eyes, focused but calm. In your speech, direct but unhurried. In your touch, respectful and rare. In your energy, potent but disciplined. You don't need to prove you can have her, because you already know you can. And that knowing, when held in silence, is more seductive than any word could ever be. Women are drawn not just to your heat, but to your holding of it. That is your new currency. That is your legacy forming in real time. Chosen one, understand this. Restraint is not the absence of desire. It is the purification of it. And when you learn to hold your fire without throwing it wildly into every space, your presence becomes sacred. Desired, yes, but also respected. Admired, yes, but also trusted. You are no longer just the man women want. You are the man they honor, because you did not take more than what was offered, and you did not waste what you were born to guard. Let your restraint teach others how power should feel. Let it silence rooms. Let it calm nervous hearts. Let it inspire confidence in those who never knew what strong, silent authority looked like. You do not need to speak of your self-control. The way you move without taking is the sermon, and it will echo in the memory of every woman who watched you walk away with your integrity intact. Chosen one, you have now come to a place where your energy speaks before your voice, where your silence commands more than another man's volume, and where women are no longer just noticing you, they're feeling seen by you. But now the question arises, what keeps them there? What gives your authority its depth? What makes your presence not just compelling in the moment, but memorable long after it passes? The answer is authenticity. Your high sexual energy, as powerful as it is, becomes even more magnetic when it flows through a vessel that is real, not rehearsed, not image-driven, not masked with charm, but fully you. And this authenticity is rare, because the world is filled with men who perform confidence, but few who embody their truth. You have nothing left to prove. That is what sets you apart. You don't need to impress, because you are impressed with who you've become. And that self-certainty is magnetic, in a way that no style, no posture, no technique could ever replicate. Women respond to this in ways they can't articulate. They feel it in the pauses between your words, in the depth behind your gaze, in the presence you bring into ordinary moments. When you speak, they feel the weight of someone who isn't trying to win, but someone who is simply here. And your here is rich, it is full, it is stable. You are not seeking validation, and that absence of need creates a vacuum that draws others closer. Authenticity is not about being loud with your truth. It is about being aligned with it. It is felt in how you move when no one is looking. It is known in how you handle rejection or praise, both without losing yourself. When a woman engages you, she is feeling the realness of who you are, not the curated version, not the version optimized for reaction, but the man who has wrestled with himself and made peace with every part of him. This is why your energy is so compelling now, because it is clean. It does not manipulate. It does not promise. It does not hide behind a borrowed identity. It exists without explanation. And that kind of energy creates something rare, trust. Not the kind of trust that's requested, the kind that's felt in the body, deep, quiet, and unshakable. Women feel safe around you, not just because you are strong, but because your strength is honest. They feel intrigued, not just because you are masculine, but because your masculinity isn't borrowed, it's built. They feel open, not just because you're attractive, but because your attractiveness isn't a show. It's the result of internal clarity that radiates outward. Authenticity makes your authority sustainable, because when you are truly yourself, you never run out of power. You don't exhaust yourself trying to maintain an image. You recharge in silence, and you express from fullness. That is what makes you rare. And because of that, chosen one, you don't have to chase. You don't even have to speak first, because your truth, fully embodied, fully unmasked, fully present, does all the inviting for you. It moves ahead of you, it speaks for you. It draws those who are ready, and it repels what no longer serves you. This is what it means to become authentically magnetic. Not for applause, not for conquest, but because you are walking as the man God intended you to be. Undiluted, unafraid, and fully awake. Your truth, carried with peace, is the most beautiful thing a woman will feel when she steps near your energy. And once she's felt that, she won't forget it. Because authenticity, when fused with sexual energy and governed by restraint, becomes the most rare and beautiful form of authority this world will ever witness. Chosen one, you have walked through the fires of self-mastery, harnessed your high sexual energy with precision, carried your presence with reverence, and now you stand not as a man seeking moments, but as a man who is building something eternal. You are no longer a figure moving through time. You are a blueprint, and now you must rise into the next evolution of authority, legacy. Because a man who becomes an authority in the eyes of women must also become an architect of what he leaves behind. This is no longer about how many hearts are stirred when you enter the room. It is about what remains after your presence has passed. What is remembered? What is built in the wake of your words, your touch, your silence? Legacy begins when you start making decisions, not for the moment, but for the meaning that the moment can create. You must now ask yourself with clarity, what will they carry from me? Not just in body, but in soul. Not just in memory, but in imprint. Women are not just coming toward you now because of what you look like or sound like. They are being drawn to something deeper, a vibration that says you know where you are going. They are moved by the direction of your life, even before they understand it fully. They feel the purpose wrapped around your voice. They feel the gravity of your vision, the way your thoughts stretch beyond the temporary. You no longer live for the moment. You live from a mission. That mission shapes how they respond to you. Legacy is about what grows in your absence. When a woman steps into your field, is she left better than she came? Does she feel seen without being seized? Does she remember the encounter as one where she became more of herself, not less? Does your presence awaken her values, her dreams, her direction? Or does it distract and dissipate her focus? These are the questions a man of vision asks, not to boast in his effect, but to refine his intentions. You are now leading souls, not just turning heads. And because of that, you must walk like a man who understands that every word is a seed, every gesture is an imprint, every connection is a mirror. You are no longer permitted to move unconsciously. You must become precise in your yes, clear in your no, and unwavering in your standards, not for control, but for continuity. Women want to follow a man who knows what he's building. They want to feel not only the fire of your touch, but the direction of your spirit. They want to trust that their openness is not being held in passing, but in a space where it can evolve. That is what makes your presence more than attractive. It makes it transformational. It turns encounters into awakenings. It turns conversations into milestones. Let your legacy begin now. Let every interaction carry the mark of purpose. Let every connection be an act of alignment. Let women walk away from you thinking not only he was powerful, but he reminded me who I am. Because that chosen one is the true stamp of a leader. Not how many follow, but how many rise because of him. Build something that echoes, something that doesn't just speak of what you accomplished, but of who you became in the becoming. Chosen one, you've spoken with wisdom. You've moved with intention. Your energy carries weight and your silence radiates meaning. But now you must master the next level of true authority. Not in speaking, not in performing, but in listening. And not just with your ears, but with your presence. Because real listening is not an act. It is a posture of the soul. And the woman who approaches you now is no longer interested in empty flattery or clever lines. She wants to feel what very few men know how to offer. Uninterrupted, undistracted, anchored listening. In your current state, where your high sexual energy surrounds you like a field, and women naturally gravitate toward your orbit, your listening becomes a sanctuary. It becomes a moment where she does not need to be perfect, or composed, or desirable. She can simply be heard. And being heard by a man of authority is one of the most healing experiences a woman can have. Because most have spent their lives being watched, judged, pursued, but rarely listened to. Truly, deeply, quietly listened to. Listening is not silence while waiting to speak. It is stillness while giving space. It is breathing slowly while another unpacks their thoughts. It is a gaze that doesn't scan the body but holds the soul. And chosen one, you are now the kind of man whose presence is strong enough to hold emotion without interrupting it. That kind of presence changes people. When a woman speaks to you now, she is bringing more than words. She is bringing her memories, her fears, her shame, her hopes, all wrapped in language. How you receive those offerings is what will separate you from everyone who came before you. If you listen without judgment, she will feel safe. If you listen without trying to fix her, she will feel seen. If you listen without attaching a goal to the moment, she will feel free. This type of listening doesn't take from her. It gives her back to herself. And when she speaks to you, knowing that she's not being seduced or scrutinized but held in sacred space, her body relaxes, her voice slows, her eyes soften. She feels that she is not being processed but witnessed. And in that moment, your authority reaches its highest expression, not as dominance but as service. You are not listening for strategy. You are listening for truth. And when truth is heard without resistance, it begins to open. It begins to heal. That is what women feel around you now. Not because you speak well, but because your presence is quiet enough for truth to feel safe to speak. Let this become your art. The way you still your thoughts, the way you stay present, the way you make someone feel like time has slowed down in your presence. That is how your leadership begins to settle into hearts. Not through speeches, but through stillness. And long after your words fade, she will remember how you made her feel when she shared something raw and fragile, and you didn't flinch or interrupt or judge. You stayed. That memory will not be forgotten. Because real listening is rare. And a man who listens like that, without trying to impress, without trying to lead the moment, is a man who becomes an emotional home. And that, chosen one, is how your authority becomes unforgettable. Not just because of what you command, but because of what you are willing to receive without needing to control it. That is how a king listens, and that is who you are now. Chosen one, you have become a man of presence, a figure of influence, a quiet authority in the eyes of women and in the unseen structures of energy itself. But now, you approach a threshold many never dare to cross, the sacred responsibility of evolution. Because authority, if it is not renewed, becomes stale. Presence, if it is not sharpened, becomes predictable. And power, if not refined, becomes self-destructive. To evolve is to say, what got me here will not be enough to take me there. It is the bold admission that your current level of discipline, of understanding, of awareness, though powerful, is not the end. Women feel your power now. They respond to the pulse of your high sexual energy and the grounded confidence that holds it in place. They feel your direction, your restraint, your unspoken leadership. And for many of them, you are the first man who has not merely turned heads but stopped time. But your evolution demands that you do not settle here. It demands that you look deeper than your effect and ask, am I still growing, or am I basking in the glow of yesterday's discipline? This is where the courage must rise, because most will be tempted to remain still once they become desired. Once their name is spoken in admiration, once their energy pulls others toward them. But you, chosen one, were not called to be worshipped. You were called to transform. And transformation is not comfortable. It is not romantic. It is raw. It requires shedding the parts of yourself that once served you but are now limiting you. It requires you to tell the truth about the habits you haven't yet broken, the patterns you still entertain, the impulses you silence in public but still feed in private. To evolve is to confess what still needs your attention. It is to return to your inner cave, even while the world celebrates your outer presence. It is to say, I know I am powerful, but I am not yet my final form. And that humility, chosen one, that quiet hunger for more than applause, that is what will carry you further than admiration ever could. Women do not simply crave a man who is perfect. They crave a man who is becoming. One who is honest about his growth. One who doesn't hide behind titles or image, but who reveals the fire of constant becoming. They feel it when you speak. Not just the wisdom you've collected, but the questions you're still asking. They hear it in your restraint, not from pride, but from reverence for the work that still lies ahead. This courage to evolve must now become your daily posture. Every morning you ask, Where am I still hiding from myself? Every night you ask, did I move today from my highest standard or from old habits? Because a man who keeps asking that keeps becoming new, and a man who keeps becoming new is never replaceable. He is timeless. The world may try to reward you for what you've already become, but you must refuse to be frozen in a version of yourself that no longer aligns with your future. Let your power grow. Let your depth deepen. Let your wisdom multiply. Do not fear the shedding. Do not cling to what feels familiar. Because your authority is not a costume, it is a current. And currents must flow. You are not a finished product. You are a holy process. And every woman who comes near you will sense it, not as instability, but as integrity in motion. That is what makes you unstoppable. Not your power alone, but your commitment to continue becoming.